Imagine this, a world where AI and robots do everything. I mean, everything. No more morning alarms, no more stressful commutes, no more worrying about bills. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Well, today, we're going to talk about the incredibly surprising dark side of that perfect paradise.
So let's just jump right in with the big one. I want you to really think about this for a second. What would you actually do if you never, ever had to work again? You know, this exact question has been on the minds of some seriously brilliant people. And today, we're looking at two of them with completely different answers for what our future could look like. The famous economist John Maynard Keynes and, you guessed it, the engineer Elon Musk.
And this is where things get really interesting, because it's like a classic showdown. On one side, you have Keynes, the humanist. He's worried about our internal software, our purpose, our drive, what gets us out of bed. And on the other side, you have Musk, the ultimate engineer, who's focused on the external hardware, building the perfect, most efficient system possible.
Okay, so let's start with Keynes. And you've got to hear this, because he basically saw all of this coming a whole century ago. He called it humanity's permanent problem. I mean, just look at how spot on he was. Way back in 1930, Keynes wrote that the great economic problem, the basic fight for food and shelter, would pretty much be solved within 100 years. Well, here we are getting really close to that 2030 deadline, and with AI advancing like it is, he might have been exactly right.
So you're probably thinking, what's the problem? Well, Keynes saw a big one. He called it the wealthy's nervous breakdown. He noticed that the people who already had all the money they needed were often the most miserable. They were bored, they were depressed, they felt totally lost. For them, the real struggle wasn't having too little, it was having too much.
He put it this way, and I'm quoting here, "For the first time, man will be faced with his permanent problem, how to use his freedom." In other words, when you don't have to do anything, what on earth do you do?
And this is so crucial to his whole argument. For Keynes, technology was never the final goal. Nope, it was just a tool, a way to get us off the hamster wheel. The real work, the much harder work, was for us to learn what he called the art of living. Because without that inner preparation, he said all this abundance would feel more like a poison than a blessing.
All right, so that's Keynes's big warning about our internal software. Now, let's flip the coin and look at Elon Musk's approach, which is all about solving the problem by just, building better hardware.
Musk's plan is pure engineering logic. It's like a checklist. Step 1, automate literally all the jobs. Step 2, give everybody universal basic income or UBI, so no one starves. Step 3, make society run as efficiently as possible. And that whole crisis of meaning thing Keynes was worried about? From this point of view, that's just a bug in the system that needs to be patched.
And maybe the best way to think about this worldview is to imagine humanity as one giant, planet-wide online game. So, if life is a game, how do you keep the players from getting bored and logging off? Easy. You just keep giving them new stuff to do. New quest unlocked. Let's go colonize Mars. New item drop. Let's connect our brains to computers with Neuralink. The strategy is always to give us a new, exciting external goal to chase so we don't have time to notice that inner emptiness Keynes was so afraid of. But this whole idea leads to a really spooky question. What happens if this perfectly engineered game works a little too well? There's a classic and kind of terrifying story about this from an old episode of The Twilight Zone that explains it perfectly. So picture this. You've got this guy, a small-time crook named Rocky. He gets into a shootout, he dies, and then he wakes up. And the place he wakes up in, well, it's a place where he gets anything and everything he could ever want, the second he thinks of it.
At first, man, it is awesome. He's got fancy apartments, the best food, you name it. He loves to gamble, so he goes to the casino. And he literally cannot lose. Every single pull on the slot machine is a jackpot. Every poker hand is a royal flush. There is zero effort, zero struggle, just perfect, instant gratification.
I mean, this has got to be heaven, right? What could possibly be wrong with this picture?
Well, after a while, something starts to feel wrong. The constant, effortless winning, it starts to feel hollow, pointless. The total lack of any challenge slowly drives him mad. It becomes an unbearable, soul-crushing boredom. His perfect paradise has turned into his own personal, perfect hell.
He finally can't take it anymore. He finds his guide, and he's begging, "Please, just send me to the other place. Send me to hell, anywhere but here." And that's when the guide just looks at him, smiles, and delivers the final chilling twist. This is the other place, my friend.
Wow. So let's bring that back. That story, that's it. That is Keynes's deepest fear, played out right in front of us. And it forces us to ask that huge question. As we build all this new hardware for humanity, is our software even remotely ready for it?
Because what Rocky's story really shows us is that a perfect system can be the most beautiful prison imaginable if the people living in it have no idea how to be free. Musk's perfectly engineered world could, very easily, become the exact same custom-designed hell that Rocky found himself trapped in.
So it all boils down to this, doesn't it? We're facing two challenges at once. There's the hardware problem, Musk's focus, which is all about building that perfect world. But then there's the software problem, Keynes's focus, which is all about us learning how to actually live in it.
And in the end, maybe the ultimate answer isn't a more efficient system or another exciting quest to distract us. Maybe it's about each of us figuring out that art of living for ourselves, that ability to create our own meaning from the inside out.
Which brings us full circle, right back to that first question. But now it's not just a thought experiment, it's for you. If you woke up tomorrow and never had to work again, what would you do with all that time? How would you fill that beautiful, terrifying, endless freedom?